So this is one that I really had to cover. Multiple people posted in the comment sections of my first two musical mistakes videos, bringing this one to my attention. And it hadn't been on my radar prior to that. So thanks to all of you who clued me in on this one. I learned so much from the comments you guys post. This one is actually very similar to something I covered in one of the previous videos. In Louie Louie, there's a moment where the vocalist starts a verse early, stops, and then comes in again at the correct time. And that's pretty much exactly what happens here. The producer on that session was Lou Adler, and the engineer was a guy called Bones Howe. Let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth, what went down that day.
We were recording I Saw Her Again last night, and Lou was the producer and I was the engineer, and we were punching vocals in. And we came to that part where the rhythm stops and the group goes, I saw her again last night. So, and I just punched in early. We were doing vocal, we got to do it over. I punched in early, they came in early, and so we stopped. And then we went back and started again. And I punched in at the beginning of the vocal then they started, 2 bars later or whatever it was. And when I played it back, the vocal went, I saw her again. It was a mistaken punch. And Lou said, I love it, leave it in. So it was an error, it was a mistake. But Lou was wise enough it caught his ear and he left it.
I love what he said about Lou Adler there. That's something that's come up again and again in these mistakes videos. Every artist is going to make a mistake now and then, but I think a huge part of being a great artist is being receptive to little gifts that the universe sometimes throws in your lap. And rather than just immediately reacting like, oh, I got to redo that, being able to distance yourself from it a little bit and say, hey, that actually sounded kind of cool. So next, let's get the perspective of one of the band members. Here's a clip from an interview John Phillips did with Bob Costas, which also includes a funny little anecdote about Paul McCartney and his response to this thing.
But I Saw Her Again had a stop and a start in it.
Yeah, accidental. It was a mistake. Denny and I just sort of came in, Dennis Doherty, who was singing the Mamas and Papas then, came in, and so did I, accidentally, and it sounded great. We went to London, and we played the dub of the record for Paul McCartney. And Paul said, wait, play that again. Play it again. He says, that's a mistake. He says, no one's that clever. That's a mistake. I know that's a mistake. Cop out to it. I said, that's a mistake. Okay.
That's great. Leave it to Paul McCartney with his incredible ear to pick up on that one immediately. And one last thing that's kind of interesting, I've noticed when people talk about this little blooper, they often say Denny Doherty comes in early. And I have to admit, when I listen to it, I feel like it's his voice that I'm hearing primarily. But both of the testimonials we've just heard from folks who were there say it wasn't just Denny, right? It's not the whole band, I don't think. I certainly don't hear Michelle Phillips or Cass Elliot. So it sounds like it was both Denny Doherty and John Phillips. I guess it's just a testament to how well their voices blended. This next musical mistake from War comes right at the beginning of the track. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Keyboardist Lonnie Jordan has a sort of fat finger moment where he ends up on a note that is a half step too high. We'll go to the keyboard in a moment and demonstrate more thoroughly. So did you hear it? That intro basically just consists of 2 chords played back and forth, B flat major and E flat major. That's what we would call a 1/4 progression in the key of B flat. And so what he intended to do was this. And he does do that successfully the second time. But the first time, here's what happens. When he tries to go back to the B flat chord on his right hand, he should be playing B flat, D, and F. That's root third and fifth in B flat. But his top finger on his right hand lands on F sharp instead of F. As I said earlier, it's a difference of a half step. And that produces what we call a B flat augmented chord, root third and sharp 5. It's a very tense chord, very cool in its way, but not what was called for here. So here's what we got. Quite a clunker there. Like most of these so-called musical mistakes, this would have been so easy to go back and fix, but I'm so glad they left it in. I think a huge part of this song's appeal is the loose slapdash feel about it. From when I was a small kid hearing this on the radio, I always thought there was something unusual and special about it. The fact that each guy in the band sings his own verse, although it's almost speaking more than singing. You've got the shouty choruses. It's one of those songs that whenever I hear it, I think to myself, man, it sounds like they had a blast recording this. About the only other song I can think of that rivals it in that way is Dylan's Rainy Day Women, with all the laughing and hooting and hollering going on. So a little piano clam right in the beginning to kick off the festivities just seems to set the mood perfectly. Now, just by way of comparison, in 1997, the band Smash Mouth had good success with a cover of this one. It's really well done. I don't want to knock those guys by any means. They hailed from my old hometown of San Jose, California. I used to go and watch a couple of the guys from that band in a really good cover band in this little dive bar on Tuesday nights. And again, they did really well with it, but it just doesn't have the same loose feel. It's almost too perfect.
Why can't we be friends? 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 I've seen ya around for a long, long time.
Right now, I'm sure at least a few of you are saying, how in the hell did Steely Dan end up in a video on musical mistakes? Donald Fagen and Walter Becker are world-renowned for their commitment to musical perfection and excellence. And the Asia album is possibly the prime example, whether you're talking about the songwriting, the performances, the recording. This album just feels flawless when you listen through. It's the kind of album that back in the day they would always have on hand at the stereo store when you were testing out a new system, right along with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. The subject of this segment is the album's title track, and like most Steely Dan tracks, the talent they've assembled here is mind-boggling. In addition to Walter Becker on guitar, we've also got both Larry Carlton and Denny Diaz. We've got Chuck Rainey on bass. Jazz legend Wayne Shorter provides the saxophone. And most significantly here, we've got Steve Gadd on drums. It's a lengthy track, clocking in at 8 minutes. And right around the 4:42 mark, we get a very exhilarating instrumental interlude. Shorter turns in an excellent sax solo, of course, and to put it simply, Steve Gadd just goes off on the drums. It's one of the highlights of the tune. Now, near the end of this section, we hear a loud click, which is Gadd accidentally hitting his drumsticks together. But it sounds so right. It's perfectly timed somehow. It comes in on the and of 3, so it adds a little bit of syncopation. And I couldn't imagine the song being any other way. It's one of those bits that I absolutely listen for every time I hear it. I also think it's cool that Gadd could have easily played this off as intentional, being that it's timed so well. But no, he has said in many interviews that it was a mistake that they decided to leave in. And in case there was any doubt that that fateful stick click is now a permanent part of this tune, listen to this live rendition of Asia from Steely Dan's Alive in America album, on which another phenomenal drummer, Dennis Chambers, faithfully reproduces the click. It's definitely a little harder to hear on that recording, but hopefully you could make it out. And finally, I just want to say another thing I love about this one is it gives the lie to that absurd idea we hear all too often that Steely Dan's music was somehow too perfect. It was sterile. I don't know why. I guess because of the fact that these guys actually knew how to play their instruments. It's that sort of music critic punk rock ethic that unless you can barely play and sing, the music is somehow not authentic. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that Fagen and Becker heard this little blunder and kept it in shows that they absolutely understood the importance of the human element. All right, so far we've had a vocal mistake, a piano mistake, and a drumming mistake. We're going to close out with another vocal mistake, but a little bit different this time. Like the Mamas and the Papas, I Saw Her Again. It involves two singers, but in our first example, obviously, those two singers came in at the same time, both a little bit early, one measure too early to be exact, but they're so in sync, it sounds almost like one voice. Here we have two singers, Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey, who come in just a little bit off and so do not finish the line at the same time. So let's take a listen and you'll hear that clearly either Daltrey comes in a bit early or Townsend comes a little bit late because Townsend is still singing after Daltrey is finished. We get this staggered effect. Eminence, front, front. Personally, I think it's pretty cool. Now you'll notice by the second time around, everything's in sync. And did you notice at the beginning of the chorus, we more or less hear just Eminence front, and the second time around it was It's an Eminence front. And of course, those of you who know the song know that later in the song we get Behind an Eminence front. So that may have been what was going on here. Somebody may have been a little bit confused as to which iteration of the chorus was being sung at any given time. Now, some of you may have noticed in the video we just watched, when the chorus first began, you could clearly see Daltrey step up to the mic early and see his mouth start moving before we actually heard anything. That's really no help at all because it turns out the audio we just heard and the video we just watched are not the same performance. They just dubbed the recording over that video. So where did the video come from? Maybe some of you folks remember when this song was played on MTV, and it was played a lot back in 1982. There was another version of the song that was clearly a live performance. In fact, it remains my favorite performance of this song. It's much more aggressive than the studio recording. Townsend plays a ripping guitar solo. His vocal has a lot more oomph to it. Let me know in the comments if you guys remember that version. But that's where this video came from.
Snow packs, ski tracks. People forget. They forget they're hiding behind an eminence front. Eminence front, it's a put on.
Yeah, that's so good. I swear that live version is so much ballsier. And that was the first chorus we just heard, and I'm sure you could tell the vocals are right on, and the line here is behind an eminence front. And finally, just to throw one more monkey wrench into this, when the It's Hard album was remastered and reissued in 1997, the studio version was fixed and the vocals were aligned. Let's listen to that one.
People forget. Forget they're hiding behind an eminence front.
So just to summarize, it's really not as complicated as I probably made it sound here. Original studio recording, vocals on first chorus misaligned. MTV live promo video version, vocals aligned. And 1997 remaster of the original recording, vocals fixed and aligned. That's basically what's going on. Anyway, it's interesting. I thought it was fine, as I mentioned before, but obviously it bothered someone enough to go back and fix it after the fact. So that's what I've got for this time. I can tell you guys are really enjoying these mistakes videos, so that's cool. I'm happy to give you more. They're fun for me as well. As usual, please consider a financial contribution if you're so inclined. Remember, the vast majority of my videos, such as this one, I'm using tons of copyrighted music. Anytime I use copyrighted music, that's a video I can't monetize. So contributions from viewers are appreciated. Go to the description of the video and you can see multiple ways to do that. All right, that's about it for now. See you next time.